A parallel for modern gender bias in media. How many YouTube videos are there featuring the tools men used to fight World War II? How many videos about Colts, M1 Garands, and P-51 Mustangs are out there? It might not be gender bias. It might just be that those things are way cooler than the subject of today's YouTube video. But I digress. Ladies, this YouTube video is about the weapon you used to fight the war. And if you ask anybody who was in Dresden or Tokyo 80 years ago, or either of those other two Japanese cities, they might tell you that the sight of an American bomber in the air is way scarier than the sight of American boots on the ground. Women built a lot of those birds, and they did it with this cardboard box. It also does hemorrhoids. There's not much content out there on these things, but if you ask any old-timer who used one back in the day, they'll tell you how great they are. Beautiful American engineering from a company that I actually thought for years was a shitty Chinese Harbor Freight house brand. Chicago Pneumatic. See, Harbor Freight has Chicago Electric and Central Pneumatic. You can forgive my confusion. That Eric Schmidt, he knows what he's doing. Marketing genius. Played me like a fiddle.
All day long, whether rain or shine, she's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie, the riveter, keeps sharp lookout for sabotage. Sitting up there on the fuselage, that little frail can do more than a mill can do. Rosie, the riveter. Rosie's got a boyfriend, Charlie. Charlie, he's a Marine.
Rosie is protecting
Charlie, working overtime on the riveting machine. When they gave her a production knee, she was as proud as a girl could be. There's something true about red, white, and blue about Rosie, the riveter.
I paid way too much for this with my old man wallet. Got it from a company that bought out a bunch of wartime manufacturing surplus from Beech Aircraft Manufacturing back in 1946. I'm glad World War II surplus is still a thing, but it's unfortunate that the sellers seem to have discovered what they have. No lowballers. I sure hope you didn't click on this hoping to learn about it from an expert. I know nothing about rivet guns, never even held one before this. But I do know an air hammer when I see one. This was like 14 bucks. The bits even swap. What kind of devilishly handsome f*** would waste $125 on an 80-year-old air hammer? I'm assuming I just paid the World War II coolness tax. Hopefully there's a good reason these cost so much more. Can't be that stupid. I mean, I'm pretty stupid. For example, my whole life I thought that these were rivets and that this was a riveter. I'm not a riveting guy, but I can Google, so I know now that these are specifically pop rivets, and these are called solid rivets. These are kind of limited because you can't use them in blind holes. You have to be able to get behind the workpieces to install them. They're supposed to be stronger and better sealing than a pop rivet, and cheaper to make too, so if you're trying to churn out flying fortresses faster than the Luftwaffe can shoot them down, these are the ticket. To make these rivets rivet, you need a bucking bar. I don't have one. As far as I can figure, a bucking bar is just a fancy heavy piece of metal with a lot of inertia to give the rivet something to deform against. I have this lately used splitting wedge. Holy shit, this thing feels amazing. I'm smitten already. I've never felt an air tool like this. It has better throttle response than my Trans Am does. It idles better too. Watch this. It's actually hammering this slow. You could hammer a birthday candle into a cupcake with this thing. And that's where they get the term party trick. The air hammer technically works, but it's visibly not as controllable. It seems to hit a little lighter and a lot faster. This drives like a ratty old muscle car, and this drives like a big block Cadillac. It also has a much higher stall speed. This thing you can run at like 60 beats per minute. Oop, I probably need that spring, don't I? I hate chocolate! Ask for vanilla! It hardly uses any air either. Which begs the question. Every power drill should have a handle. Now to be diplomatic. "800 RPM, my ass." This gooseneck design is intended to be used with two hands, but here we are. The Craftsman drilled slower but truer, and the rivets came out great. The Soviet one drilled like a bat out of hell, but her holes are too sloppy. Blame mechanical slop, or blame shitty ergonomics, or blame my dainty prepubescent wrists. But to prove the concept, theoretically, with enough Milwaukee batteries, you could build an entire Liberty ship this way. It's still firing on 2 psi. One more? No? Okay. This thing puts out more than enough CFM for this rivet gun. And with the propane tank basically acting as an accumulator, hey, it's the world's first battery-powered pneumatic air riveter. Patent pending. So yeah, not only is this old girl as smooth as a baby's butt, it's also super controllable and, hey, energy efficient. I've shot plenty of actual boom boom guns from this era, but I've never gotten this big a kick out of any of them. Maybe because this one's fully automatic. If you know me personally and live nearby, come try this thing. Seriously, I'll cover your ammo. I'm sorry if I ruined any appearance of non-bias. I'm geeking out over this thing already. I've used a lot of cheap air tools in my life. And for a tool like me, this is like when I heard the Beatles for the first time. Love Me Do, I remember it was. I bought this to take apart for the video, but now I don't want to. I'm afraid I won't get it back working like this ever again. Thanks for watching. I can't do that to you. I'm actually going to take both of these apart and see if I can figure out the difference between an air hammer and a rivet gun, because functionally they seem identical. And also, what's the quality difference between a priceless piece of American history and the best gosh darn $14 I ever spent at Harbor Freight? There's two types of people watching this video. People like me, who also don't know the difference between a rivet gun and a much cheaper air hammer. And then there's those of you who know damn well the difference and are currently either laughing at my ignorance or getting bored and clicking off. I normally like to make videos about things I know something about, but there really wasn't much info online to learn about these old rivet guns, so I just took the plunge. I don't know why they aren't talked about in tool forums and stuff. Maybe because they're too old and nobody who used one had a computer. Or maybe because they're so esoteric, or maybe they're just decidedly on the more mundane end of the power tool excitement spectrum. Or maybe because a lot of these were used by women, who are, almost universally, more emotionally intelligent than men, and therefore don't anthropomorphize, romanticize, or become personally attached to their tools like men tend to do. I really don't know. Point is, production line tools like this are a grossly underreported part of American World War II history. I know these women are well into their 90s at this point, and maybe this is just a me thing. What? Something about a farm girl in a welding mask. By 1943, 2/3 of American aircraft manufacturing was done by women. One day in June that same year, one Rose Bonavita and her partner with the bucking block, the gunner and the bucker they called them, drilled and set a record 3,345 rivets on a bomber in one shift. That's over 9 rivets per minute in what I assume was a giant f*** you to OSHA. Rose was immortalized for her tenacity. She got a Norman Rockwell painting, a hit song, a poster, and she became part of the zeitgeist. Her bucker, Jenny Florio, got a nice letter from the White House and a brief mention 81 years later in this YouTube video about an old rivet gun. Don't really know how fair that is. According to my research, women in factories across America were noted for being more efficient with one of these things than men. Can't think of a reason why.
They were as fast as men, if not faster. For rivets are but the buttons of a bomber to hold it together against a speed of nearly 350 miles an hour.
I wonder. It's well known that testosterone and insecurity don't mix, and a lot of men probably didn't take well to women in the factory. And it's another grossly underreported part of World War II history, the hidden army. I mean, my job requires carrying heavy tool carts down city streets, up in the Poconos and the hills, and working on machines in hazardous environments and long hours on the road. My delicate little flower couldn't possibly do my job. So what if she did? What if she not only invaded my territory, but conquered it too? Look, call it what you will, but denying fragile masculinity does not negate its existence. Growing up, watching how my grandfathers were used to dominating their households, I can't believe these old-fashioned men put up with that shit. Women taking their jobs. These were men. Welders, mechanics, shipbuilders, manly men. Then to find out that their wives and sisters were able to just step in and do their macho jobs while they were away from home doing God's work overseas. I'm gonna be gentle. There we go. But we're damn lucky they took those jobs. You know the old saying, World War II was won with British intelligence, American steel, and Russian blood. And a lot of that American steel had a woman's fingerprints on it. Is this metric? Oh God, that's so disappointing. No, okay, thank God. The first and most obvious difference here is the fit and finish. This is so smooth. I love this old air hammer. I promise I'm not going to bash it, but come on. Like a Victorian prostitute. Who doesn't love a Victorian prostitute? Look at this difference. This hardened steel cylinder has 17, 18, approximately 19,000 precision ports to allow for super precise control of airflow in and out of the chamber. Those ports are what allow the air to slam the anvil forwards and to retract it again, getting ready for the next blow. The air hammer has 1, 2, 3 big holes in it. Seriously, the fit is so tight on this you can hear it pumping air with every stroke. Speaking of stroke, that's another big difference I'm seeing. Just like an internal combustion engine, the stroke of the piston has a massive effect on how the engine runs. 7.5 centimeters to the bottom. And 3 centimeters to the top. That's a full stroke of 4.5. The rivet gun measures 11.5 centimeters to the bottom, and to the top, oh, it's pretty close, that's convenient. Two and a half to the top, for a total stroke of 9 centimeters, more than double the air hammer. This isn't a big block Cadillac. This is a Cummins diesel. The actual projectiles are different too. The air hammer weighs 851 grains. The rivet gun's hammer weighs only 509 grains. So the air hammer is hitting much harder and much faster. That's assuming the machining tolerances around the hammer are equally tight in both tools, which I expected these triggers to be totally different, with the rivet gun having much longer travel for easier throttle control. This is starting to round off, and I do not dare ruin a piece of American history, but I can demonstrate right here that it's pretty much the same. I love this thing. You can smell the sweat equity and hearing loss in it. Part of me wants to put it up in a case as something pretty to look at, but that's not in the spirit of the tool or the women who used it. I'm going to put this to work, and now that I know that little propane tank tire inflator setup thing will run it just fine, I'm not tied to a heavy air compressor. Heads up to the next owner of my house. I'm riveting all my gutters together. So, a salute to all the moms and sisters and nanas and mimis that kicked ass in the war any way they could.
My husband's a prisoner of the Japs in the Philippines. If he'd had a few more of these shells out in Bataan, maybe he'd still be fighting.
I'm an old maid, and I didn't have anyone until I took this defense job. Now, I have a family of 10 million to look after.
I was too heavy for the wax, so I joined up in defense work. Yesterday was the big day of my life. The foreman told me I was worth my weight in gold.
Yes, you are, beautiful stranger, and so is this 80-year-old Chicago pneumatic gooseneck arrow riveter, my new favorite tool. The most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my life was my oldest son's first cry. You know what's the second most beautiful sound I ever heard? So the first and second best sounds I've ever heard in my time on this planet were made possible by women. So is the third, but if I talk about that on YouTube, my wife will kick my ass. Much better. I like both. Both are good.
Rosie, the Rivet, Rosie, working on assembly line.